Hello friends, so today we are going to start with a very interesting lesson, that is human health and disease. So to understand this lesson, first we need to understand what is health. Health is a state of complete physical, mental and social well-being of a person. So in this lesson we are going to come across so many diseases, okay? So for that we need to understand what is a pathogen. Pathogen is an organism which cause disease in man. Okay, so it can be bacteria, viruses, helminths, protozoa. Okay, so first disease which we are going to learn today is typhoid. So typhoid is caused by an organism called as Salmonella typhi. Okay, so this organism, like for example, how is this typhoid spread? Now it is transmitted through fecal-oral route, through contaminated food and water. If a person who's infected, okay, and the food and water is infected with the stools of that person, other person can get typhoid. And what are the symptoms of typhoid? Fever, then there is stomach ache, there is constipation, there are rashes. The person can also experience diarrhea. So let me tell you a story about typhoid Mary. She was so famous, and she was an Irish lady, and she was a cook by profession. She used to work in about 7 to 8 houses, and she used to cook there. But Mary was a typhoid carrier. She was a healthy carrier of typhoid. That means, what is a healthy carrier? A person who has the disease but does not have the symptoms. He excretes the bacilli into the stools. Okay. So how did she get this typhoid? She got it from her mother. Her mother was infected, so she got infected. So what happened that as she was a cook, wherever she worked, people got typhoid, and some people got disease, some people died, and so this case was investigated that what was causing so much of typhoid spread. So it was after investigation they found that it was the Mary who's causing all the problems. She was quarantined. She was told to change the job. So she took the job of a laundress, but that did not pay her well. So then again secretly, she took a job of a cook, and then actually she took a job of a chef, and then she worked in restaurants, in hospitals. So because of that, so many people got infected, and the disease was spreading, and some people died. So again the case was investigated. She was quarantined for the second time, and but then she finally died of typhoid itself. So if she could have washed her hands properly, maintained hygiene, and could have changed the job, and also if she could have treated that time, this couldn't have caused the problem. Okay, so next disease we are going to learn about is pneumonia. So in pneumonia, what happens is the patient, he experiences difficulty in breathing, that is dyspnea. Then there is cough. Then patient experiences chills, fevers. And what are the organisms which cause this pneumonia? It can be due to bacteria, viruses. But some bacteria which causes like pneumonia is Streptococcus pneumoniae and Haemophilus influenza. So what happens is when the person gets infected, now the alveoli of the person is like all of us are covered by capillaries, okay, but if the person who is infected, the capillaries, they dilate, they become permeable, and now the fluids, the RBCs, the WBCs, they are going to enter the alveoli, and now when the alveoli which was full of air now is filled with fluid as well. See this image, what do you see? Now the alveoli has fluid. How is the person going to breathe properly? That's why the person has dyspnea. Okay, and if this pneumonia is not treated, and for a long time, if he has pneumonia, it will get worse, and the person will have cyanosis, that is bluish discoloration of the nails and lips. Okay, this occurs because of increase in deoxygenated blood. So you're getting how this pneumonia, what does it do, and how does this pneumonia spread? It's when a person having pneumonia coughs, the droplets in the air, if they are inhaled by some other person, that person has like a lot of chances of getting pneumonia. If the person, if he uses in materials like pencils, erasers, rubbers utensils of person who's infected, then that also causes that also can spread pneumonia. Okay. Now we'll learn about common colds. So many of us, like all of us, have at least experienced 3 to 4 times in a year. We experience common cold, right? So what are the symptoms of common cold? We all know. You tell me what it can be. There is sore throat, there is cough, there is cold, there is fever, we feel fatigue, right? And this common cold is caused by rhinovirus, okay, and it is spread in exactly the same way the pneumonia does, that is through fomites. What are fomites? Pencils, erasers, utensils of a person who is infected. If we use them, we can get. And also through air droplets, okay, through air it is spread. Now, as we know, we have learned about typhoid, pneumonia, common cold. Now let's go towards a very important topic. Please pay attention very nicely. So we are going to learn about malaria. Now this malaria is caused by a protozoa called as Plasmodium. It can be Plasmodium vivax, Plasmodium ovale, Plasmodium falciparum, Plasmodium malaria. Most common which causes this malaria is Plasmodium falciparum. Now for this Plasmodium, to complete its life cycle, it requires two hosts, that is human and other is female Anopheles mosquito. Okay. Now whatever I am saying, just refer to this diagram. Okay. So if you refer to this diagram, you will understand. Just relate. It will be easier for you to relate it. Okay. Now what happens is, in the mosquito, there is an infective stage of Plasmodium called as sporozoites. What are sporozoites? How are they formed? I am going to tell you at the end of this cycle. Now these sporozoites, they enter the human if the mosquito bites the particular human. Now these sporozoites, they were spindle in shape. They enter the liver, multiply in the liver, they become merozoites. Okay, they change the shape, they become merozoites, and they multiply in the liver cells. Now this liver cells, they will burst and release all the merozoites in the blood. Now once these merozoites are released, what will happen is they enter the red blood cells, RBCs. They form tropozoites, then they form schizons, and then they form gametocytes. And when the RBC bursts, the gametocytes are released. Now in the blood of the human, there is male and female gametocytes. Now when some other mosquito comes and bites the person, these gametocytes are going to enter the mosquito's body. Now fertilization occurs, zygote is formed, and now a oocyst develops in the midgut of the mosquito. Okay, and now in the oocyst, sporozoites develop. Once the sporozoites develop, oocysts burst. These sporozoites enter the salivary glands of the mosquito, and when the mosquito bites another person, sporozoites are again going to enter to that person. So this cycle continues. Okay. And now, why does fever occur in malaria? Now, when the RBC it bursts, hemozoin is released, which causes the fever in malaria. Okay, so did you understand malaria? Okay, so now the next disease which we are going to talk about is amoebiasis. Amoebiasis is caused by an organism called as Entamoeba histolytica. Now before that, why do your parents and teachers don't let you eat outside? They tell you, right, you do not eat in places where the food is open and there are flies all around. What happens is diseases like amoebiasis spread. Now what happens if a person whose feces is infected, okay, if the fly sits on it, and that infection is going to be transmitted to the food, and when the other person is going to eat that food, he can have amoebiasis. It is spread through contaminated food and water. So the person has stomach ache, there is constipation, then there is the person can also have diarrhea. There is dysentery, that is blood and mucus in the stools. Okay, so you need to remember that. And so you know the transmission, the organism, the symptoms of amoebiasis. Now let's move to the next disease, and it's ascariasis. See this image. You see a bunch of worms, right? What are these? What are these? These are ascaris worm. This is an ascaris worm. Like what happens is, Like again, when the food and water is infected by feces who has ascariasis, the feces contain eggs of ascaris. So these eggs are going to get mixed with the food and water, and when you consume it, the adult worms are going to develop in the intestine of the person. Okay. Now, what does these worms do is that it takes the nutrition of the host, and the host will experience malnutrition, vitamin A deficiency. Now, just imagine if the worms, like if there are too many worms in the intestine, what will happen? There is going to be obstruction in the intestine, and these worms can enter the mouth, like come out of the mouth, enter the nostrils from the eustachian tube. They can go to the ears, okay, and they can also enter the lungs, and the person may die. Okay, so you need to remember that about ascariasis. Now next we are going to learn about elephantiasis. Now what is elephantiasis? Now it is caused by an organism called as Wucheria bancrofti. Okay, so a mosquito having the larvae of these worms, when it bites a person, these larvae will enter the person's body, and now it is going to develop into adult worms into the lymphatic vessels. Now if lymphatic vessels, they are like they have the adult worm in it, right? So where are the fluids going to drain? It cannot drain, and now that particular part of the body is going to be inflamed and going to be giant. Okay, it therefore it occurs in it most commonly in legs, in genitalia. Okay, so this was about elephantiasis, and now finally we learn about ringworms. It is caused by epidermophyton. It can be caused by mycosporum, various genera of the fungi. And what happens is, in this the skin, it becomes scaly, dry. The person has a lot of irritation and itching in that area. And in areas where there is a lot of moisture, like in between the toes, in the groin, there's a lot of moisture and heat, right? So these fungi can grow there easily, and so the person experiences a lot of irritation. Okay, so like we have learned about so many diseases now. So the diseases like amoebiasis, typhoid, ascariasis can be prevented if food and what we eat proper clean food and drink clean water, wash our hands nicely. Okay, this can be prevented. And mosquito and malaria, it can be prevented by, if we stop the breeding of mosquitoes. Okay, it can be prevented, like not letting the water collect in one area for a long time. Okay, it can be prevented. And fungal infections can be prevented by personal hygiene. Have a bath daily. Okay, keep yourselves clean. Okay, and pneumonia and common cold can be prevented by following proper cough etiquettes, wearing a mask. Okay, so this was all about the diseases. Now we are going to move to the next topic. In the next video, we are going to continue the lesson. So I hope, friends, you really loved this video, and keep watching my videos for more information. So thank you very much.